warm one for the first day. Tried to go a little bit shorter, but we did create enough adversity and some anxiety to, challenge our guys and probably be a little bit sloppier than probably you'd wish after, coming off of doing some of the OTAs, the things they allow you to do. And that's more so the second group. I think there's an anxiety level as you start camp and you leave campus that shows with some of the young guys and even some new guys that been through spring ball and been through some other things, been through these ability to have OTAs and do walkthroughs and what you're allowed to do a little bit more, and then you throw them into the camp setting and everybody understands that there's a human element and there's some things that are going to start to add up, and that's where you see guys maybe cramp up a little bit or maybe get sick a little bit, but it's good. You got to have it, you got to push through it, but it's a good way to start.
Was this sort of the physicality level you were expecting on day one?
Well, I mean, you're not in pads, but yes, the allowing you to use spiders and things, you could go back 25, 30 years when you didn't have pads on. Day one for the guys up front, it's not much different, right? I mean, I'm talking about the O-line, D-line, those kind of guys. So got out of it what we wanted to get out of it. Now we got to continue to move forward. That's the thing. Day one, it's not like you're winning anything on day one, but you can't put yourself in a bad position and create some bad habits. So I thought up front in particular, 1-0, especially the O-line, 1D, especially the D-line, did a really good job setting the tone, staying on their feet, and getting done what we need to get done.
Do you have any better idea on Nizier and what's your plan?
Don't know. There's some parameters that allow him to be out here. We got to plan accordingly, but there's a lot of things that lay in the wait. Just trusting and believing and hoping that they take a good hard look at this thing and make a judgment based on what's best for a young man. I mean, again, we all have our own personal opinions, but when it comes down to it, you believe that the NCAA is out there to do what's best for young men and women and still in college football or college sports. So we'll see.
Is there anything you look forward to when you come down here each year? A meal, like something?
Actually, what I look forward to is a little adversity, is the anxiety. To be honest, I mean, I don't know whether this is year 24, 25, 26, 27. Of being a coach, not even to GA, and you still are up at 2:30, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, because there is a anxiety. There is that just what that comes along with starting, and maybe even a little bit more when you got a new quarterback, when you got a guy that you haven't been with in the fire, and then you got a lot of 16, 17 newer guys, and I say newer guys, a lot of those guys that you're counting on, and then that's just probably the new age, a little bit more of college football. So there even creates a little bit more anxiety from us. It doesn't show as much on the field, like we don't cramp up or get sick like maybe we saw some of these other guys do, but I think that's a really good sign for a lot of reasons.
Coach, I know it's very early, but Cooper was obviously here this spring.
Yeah.
Mason had a couple athletic plays today. Just what is so intriguing about some of the young talent in that way?
It'll be interesting. You got to get those kind of guys ready. You got to give them opportunities to play, and that's where you really see guys that have a maturity level and a passion level when it gets to camp time. I mean, it's hard to separate yourself into just doing the walkthroughs and things back on campus. For those guys in particular, Coop had been here for the spring, so you got a chance to truly see how he reacts when you actually play the game. But some of those young guys like that, there's going to be a challenge, and coming from me in a lot of ways to the coaches to say, hey, our job is to coach these guys up, and if we feel like they have better abilities as you move forward. I'm not saying they do now. I mean, there's a lot of things to be done, but if they do and they show some of those things, you got to put them out there, you got to coach them up, and we got to do what they can do. So, and there's a long way to go with some of those young guys. There's a lot of older guys that did some really good things too. But I guess that's where you're going to find out a lot of different things here in the next, I say 14 days out here, but the next 28 days before a game.
Guys were talking about how they can already feel the culture shift yesterday when we were talking to them a little bit. I mean,
yeah,
for you, is it important just to establish that identity early this season?
I think you're always pushing that, but there's definitely something to be said about that. And, so I think that our big thing about, hey, we kind of be consistent from the time we walked in the door, but there is a little bit of difference in the way you live your life and the things that you kind of preach. And we've said it all the time, the culture, the environment isn't what we put up on the wall. It's actually what we promote, what we permit, and what we put on film. And I think that we have a greater opportunity where we are right now to continue to push what we want to be and how we want to be and what we feel like is going to give us the best opportunity and the edge to be successful on the field. And so I appreciate that they feel some of that. The real proof is in do we have some consistency do we really have the leadership, me, i.e. coaches, older guys that continue to promote that and make sure that we hold that standard as we continue to battle.
Coach, what do you like about being here in Platteville and just?
I mean, there's a lot of things about being here. Being away is important, whether that's for our players or for our coaches, where you can kind of try to hone out a lot of the other things. You change your environment a little bit. You got to rely upon each other, but we got to use it the best way too. I mean, just because you're here doesn't mean you use it the best way, right? I mean, there's great opportunities with facilities and things like that. But in order for us to do this the best way, our guys got to spend time together. Our guys got to understand that it's not just about the X's and O's that's going to win games and allow us to handle adversity. There's a lot of things we have to do together that will add to this complementary football that don't just happen in that hour and 40 minutes that we're on the field. So that's where we've got to continue to take advantage of these time out here and all the things that we do have out here.
You've been with Jordan Reed for 8 months now. What have you seen about how he goes about his business, how he recruits? That seems up to you.
He's doing a great job, and it shows when you see the competitive nature of his group. There's a lot on those guys. This is a new offense. I mean, obviously, a lot of those guys have been here since January or have gone through spring ball and some of the walkthroughs and things like that. But you're always trying to evaluate on their preparation, and then you try to evaluate as a whole on that group. What's the competitive level, right? What's the competitive spirit? And you can say, well, if you got great players, it doesn't really, those guys are the ones who are going to play. I think what he has done is established some competitive nature in there that, hey, there's a lot of new things we're asking wide receivers maybe to do that they hadn't done, whether they're new here or even in the last 2 years. And that just might be line up closer to the line of scrimmage. That might be tight formations. That might be, some play action, some cracks, anything. But continue to see a buy-in, a competitive spirit. I know it's day one, but for the last 8 months, it's been impressive. Yeah. I think we challenged him a little bit today in the finisher, trying to go 8 plays straight, which isn't normal. You see a guy that even has been here, has played a lot of ball, and we have a high expectation for, that pushed himself far enough that he's getting sick and able to rally and get back in there and finish the thing out. But he's a guy that we're going to rely upon, and I think that room relies upon it. As we talked about this idea, this environment, culture, and the guys are feeling it different. They only feel it because of guys like Vinny. They only feel it because those guys are doing a better job of making sure we hold the standard, and whether it's in their room or in the whole. And I think that, when you're matching that thing up with the way you live and the guys you're putting in front of them, it gives you a greater opportunity to be able to continue to grow.
You guys knew you wanted to add a quarterback. What did you see in your portal season? What did you see?
To say I saw a ton, I mean, to have a connection, I think was really important. I think that's where it kind of comes from. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of those guys, and he's played 1 year or half a year, I think, at Southern Illinois. To say I knew a ton about him, to say I had studied him a lot, I'd be lying. But you do understand that there's a maturity level of a guy from what he's been through. There is a talent level, an arm talent level that's obvious to see, and in particular that room, or just wherever he's been the last couple of years. Not to say that you're preparing for injuries, but you got to find a way to make sure that you've got some competition in that room, and no matter what the season looks like, you got to have some guys that you feel confident that can go out there, and they've got some experience behind it, and I think that's what he provides.
How have your expectations changed from year 1 to year 3, just in terms of what you expect from your staff, what you expect from your players, and not just week 1, day 1?
No, I think the expectations is basically how we go about everything. When you come out here, it's what's day 1 supposed to look like. In general, college football has allowed us to do more things over the last 3 years. And what I mean by that is you have an opportunity to walk through in the summer. You have an opportunity to walk through in the winter. Obviously, you still have your spring football, but the expectations for how you kind of used all that time, there's an expectation. We came back for 2 weeks in the summer where maybe some, have a vacation time. Now, don't get me wrong. We got guys away from here as coaches, but to come back for those 2 weeks and really spend 8-9 hours a day here, getting ourselves ready for camp, breaking down the first 4 games, making sure we're around our players as long as we possibly can. I think that's where you start to see that expectation amongst your staff and those guys. They're going to do it, right? Just like you guys. You're told to be out here, you're going to be out here. But there's a difference in attitude of wanting to be and being a part of it and recognizing that you're taking some ownership in it. And I think for me, that's probably been one of the more exciting things, is just to see a lot more of some of that from both sides of the ball. Just an ownership of, okay, there's an expectation, whether it's daily, what's going to look like on Saturdays, but there's an expectation, there's an ownership to all that we do.
You and Mitchell talked about in the spring the desire to increase the production of the punt unit, or punt return unit, I should say. How many punt returns do you want to try to cycle through here in the
We really like to have one, but
yeah.
I mean, we got to figure that out. Vinny Anthony has done a good job, but we can't ask Vinny to do everything, right? I mean, Vinny's also a great kick returner. And, so do we have him kick return? Can he punt return? Can he play, how many snaps on offense? We got to be smart, but we got to see what Jane Ballard can do. We got to see what Tredge can do. There's some other guys we got to put back there, but if the punt's the most important play in football, that would kind of mean that the punt return can be maybe the second most important play in football. And nothing changes the dynamics, a field position battle than those two right there. And we were poor with it last year, and we're not going to accept that. We've got to do a better job, whether that's rush, hold up, but in particular, I think finding out who's going to give us the best opportunity to understand what their role is in this complementary football, if they're a punt return guy in particular.
How do you feel the team has kind of embraced the changes both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball?
Well, again, that's something you continue to see, right? I think there's a lot of excitement, right? Day one is day one. Spring ball is spring ball. The walkthroughs are the walkthroughs. There's a great attitude. Let's just be honest. Like, nobody likes where we finished and where we are or where we were. And that's what, if they came back for a reason. If they came to our program, they knew what they were signing up for. The ability for us to be consistent, to continue to not just be where we are, but continue to grow, that is going to be the challenge for us. So I feel great about where we are. I love the attitude. I think we've got a collective leadership group that gives us a much better chance to handle and continue to grow through all things that we're going to face in 130 days as we continue to roll.
Was there any update on Corey Walker and kind of what he's dealing with right now?
No. I mean, it's something a little bit new, just a tight back. He's a guy who's played a lot of football. I'm not overly concerned. You push a lot of young guys through a lot of different things, and then you do have some older guys, some mature guys that have done a lot, and there's where you got to be smart. So maybe one of the more difficult things when you've got new guys, you don't know, some guys you got to protect from themselves, some guys you got to push. A guy like Tretch, you got to make sure you protect him from himself, because he has one speed, and if you give him the green light, he's going to try to go every single rep, and so older guys you got to trust a little bit that believe in where they are and what they're doing, and hopefully he'll be back out there maybe tomorrow or the next day.
You guys,
Jake Cheney back out there? Or?
Yeah.
So what's his role?
Well, he's got his phone by his side, so you just never know. But Jake, as you guys probably know, wants to be a coach someday, and I'm not saying football's over for Jake. But Jake's one of us, and if he's not in a camp, he'll be out here with us and continue to maybe move forward on what life after playing the game of football looks like. But he's still working out and making sure that if somebody calls, he's got his car ready to roll, and we'll be going. But it's great to have him out here.
you guys moved JP Benchall over to left tackle.
The first 3, 4, 5. I mean, we got to figure out what all that looks like. I mean, there's going to be some movement in the first few days to see how those things go. Again, you got to find 7 or 8, and so what that combination looks like, we still got to figure out.
What are some of your goals, and what would consider?
We don't. I mean, goals. I mean, that's long term. We always have one goal in this program is to play for championships, and not a whole lot of talk about that because there's a process to what we got to do, and there's a focus that we have to have. So we'll continue that, and so it's an objectives of what we got to do every single day. What we're going to get out of this first week, what we're going to get out of the second week, what we expect out of 14 days here, and take that thing, as much one day at a time, and have those objectives that we can measure, as opposed to worrying about the destination. So, thank you.